Hey, everybody, welcome back to the show. Today, I'm excited to have my friend Stephanie on, and we're going to be talking about some things that we all kind of deal with. How do we level up in our business? How do we get our mind right? How do we make sure that we're blocking off our time so that we're productive? And how do we surround ourselves with the right people? Professional real estate investors know that it's not really about the real estate. In fact, real estate is just a vehicle to freedom. A group of over 100 of the nation's leading real estate investors from across the country meet several times a year at the Investor Fuel Real Estate Mastermind to share ideas on how to strengthen each other's businesses, but also to come together as friends and build more fulfilling lives for all of those around us. On today's show, we're going to continue our conversation of fueling our businesses and fueling our lives. I'm glad you're here. Hey, Stephanie, welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you for having me.
It's great to have you. And by the way, nobody else would know this, but I happen to know it's your birthday today. So super excited to have you on. And that was a coincidence, I think, that it worked out that way, but we're excited to have you here.
Yeah, absolutely.
The gift is going to be for us. That's what I like to say.
Yeah, there you go.
So, guys, Stephanie is an investor out in Phoenix and a member of our Investor Fuel Mastermind. Stephanie, why don't you talk a little bit about your background and kind of how you found your way into real estate investing?
So sometimes I think, how the heck did I end up in real estate?
we all think that.
I don't remember. No, I was in hospitality. I was in hospitality for a really long time. And then I got out of it, ended up at a real estate company, but it wasn't. So I always knew I wanted to be in real estate. We'll start there. And so it was just something I always say naturally. And I don't know what kind of enticed me towards or attracted me towards real estate, but my parents had like a rental or two when I was a kid, and maybe that was just subconsciously in my mind that that's something that I wanted to do. So when I worked for the Hyatt in hospitality, they would pay for your school, or they'd pay for education, and so I put that money towards my real estate exam or real estate school. It took me probably like 3-4 years before I went and took some classes, and then I stopped. And then I went back, and so I wasn't really taking it seriously. So finally, though, I decided at the end, like a few years back, I'm just going to do it. So I got licensed, not really with a plan in place or anything like that. But I was talking to a friend one time out, and I told him, I'm like, I want to get into real estate investing again. I don't know why I said investing. I don't know where I got that idea from. So he said he had a friend that I should connect with. So he ended up connecting me with his friend, and this friend did a little bit of flipping, pretty much a little bit of wholesaling, but really he was just marketing to cherry pick his own deals to flip. Now I think he does new builds and construction, but when I was there, that's what he was doing. So we got to talking, and long story short, he's like, you seem like you're pretty persistent and you seem like you might be good for this. So I'm going to put you on my mailers. I'm like, sure, whatever. I had no idea what he was talking about. So he put me on his mailers. I was taking the calls, locking up deals. So we think him and I did about 20 deals together. And so I learned a little bit of what wholesaling was, what kind of contracts, like what the title company was, all the basics that I needed to know. Yeah. And then once I realized that how much money he was making, I'm like, I want to make that much money. So I did like a round of bandit signs, and I lucked out, and literally my first like full round of bandit signs, I think I only put like 75 out. I ended up popping 2 deals and making, I want to say, like $17,000. And so I was like, I gotta go. I'm out.
You're hooked.
Yeah. So then that's kind of how my real estate investing career started.
That's great. I think a lot of people should do more of an apprenticeship type thing like that. I mean, I think, there's so much that you don't know up front. And I'm a coach. I coach a lot of people, but I think it's not quite the same as working for somebody and because there's always the supposed sexy side, and then there's a whole bunch of like the dark side that nobody sees, just like, hey, I spent a bunch of money on marketing and I didn't get anything for it, or whatever. There's always more to the story. There's an asterisk next to this business of, it's not as sexy as it looks on the outside, not always. So, but I think that's a great way to kind of see kind of behind the curtain of what an operation looks like. So awesome. So, one of the things that we were talking about, and we've talked about in the past, is just doing things like kind of getting your mindset right and trying to figure out what you want to be when you grow up, right? So how do you run this like a business and give you your life back? And all the same reasons we get into it, sometimes we end up just becoming self-employed instead of running a business, right? We'll talk about, I know some of the things that are important to you are mindset and surrounding yourself with the right people, like-minded people and all those things. So talk a little bit about kind of mindset, like what do you do? And I know we've talked about this a little bit up front, like it's not like we're experts in this, but it's kind of what you think about directionally. Where are you, what have you learned on mindset and how to kind of keep your mind right?
I think what's been huge, and I'm not 100% consistent on it, but it's something that I'm working towards and working on every day. But I think affirmations, like the way we speak to ourselves and the way we speak out loud. So that's another thing that this week I've really been honing in on, like pivoting the way the way I speak. So I'm trying not to, I'm trying, like just saying I'm trying is already kind of shutting yourself down. So it's just the way you speak to yourself, the way you speak out loud. And I think a way to, affirmations are huge. So one thing that I do in my morning routine is I do like the savers. I don't know if you're familiar with Morning Miracle, but it's basically
I am. Yeah.
silence. Yeah, it's to silence, a little bit of mindfulness, whether it be meditation or whatever it is, scribbing, affirmations, and I think there's exercise. But if I can do any of them and I don't have time, what I do is try to get the mindfulness in. So just do like a 10-minute meditation, guided meditation, or like maybe in a 5 minute, and then the affirmations. So I literally write out affirmations like I am, and then I finish the sentence. Or it doesn't even have to be I am. It could be something about like money. Like one, for instance, I repeat is money flows in easily and is abundant in my life. So I just repeat and repeat. And I might sound crazy if someone's like outside of the room or someone's like watching me and I'm just talking to myself. Because I think saying it out loud too, you're putting that energy out there. And
Yeah.
so it's just, I repeat that all over and over, for, as long as I have basically. So that just, you're planting that seed subconsciously in your mind. And then, so eventually you're going to believe it because you're
Yeah.
repeating it so many times. And then also I think you're putting that out there, that energy out there. And as long as you're taking action,
Yep.
things,
Yeah, you're right. Like
evolve.
saying words like I'm trying or I'm thinking about or whatever, that's kind of like weasel words, right? You're kind of basically like, well, if it doesn't work out, it didn't work out. But when you're presumptive and you say this is happening, you start to assume like in your mind that it has happened already, or it's inevitable that it's going to happen. Then it's you kind of, whatever people say, it's like you're putting it out there. The universe kind of makes it happen, but the reality is your mindset made it happen, right?
Yeah, I think it's everything too, and it's just the more consistent you are, eventually you're just gonna believe it. I don't know, it's that easy, I guess.
Yeah.
And then if you're saying it out loud, you're actually, there's just more power to it. And yeah, so I think that's huge. But also just like we just said, the way you talk, because I think we are all kind of trained to say I'm trying. I don't know how that got into our vocabulary. Is, oh, I'm trying to do this. It's like, no, you're actually doing it. So why are you programmed to say I'm trying? It's like, no, you're like, for instance, I'm trying to get my morning routine consistent. No, well, no, I'm doing it. So my morning routine is consistent because I've been consistent for the last 4 days. So it's just changing the way you
Right.
speak.
Yeah, that's
So I think
good. That's
that's
good.
that's pretty huge.
So we'll talk about a little bit about time blocking. So I know that's one of the things that you just kind of alluded to. You kind of start to get this ritual of how you do things, and it's hard for us when you're self-employed and you have control over your time. If you came from like a corporate job, like I did, like you did, right? Sometimes all of a sudden it's like, well, I could work late at night, or I could work early in the morning, or I could work all day long, or I could not work at all. Like you have that flexibility to do that. It's hard to get consistent, but you kind of have to focus on blocking your time or setting aside specific times to do specific tasks, right?
Yeah, it's, as a person, and this is again the label that I'm putting on myself, but in the past I've been a little unorganized, and that's that's a goal this year, and that's what I'm currently working on that. And I know this is going to sound really silly, but the whiteboard behind me, I just put that up probably about a week ago, maybe a week and a half ago, and it's already changed my life. And I know that might seem dramatic, but it literally has changed my life, because what I used to do is, I mean, I still take notes in a notepad, but I would take the notes and then I would close the notepad and it would get thrown in a corner, and then until it was time to bring it out again to make notes. And so there's a huge power in having things laid out in front of you. And I mean, it's massive. So what I've been doing is writing everything, like planning out my day the night before, and just having it in front of me, because when it's time to go to sleep, or like my office is at home, so I have my whiteboard there, but so I pass it all the time. I'm like, oh my gosh, I need to plan my day for tomorrow. So it's just getting in the habit of doing that. And it's like that, just doing it consistently, it's going to become a habit to me, and having it in front of me, I think, is huge. So yeah.
That's great. That's great. And what do you do, or what are you working on to kind of prioritize business over personal things like fitness or whatever? Like, how do you prioritize those things? Because usually if you don't have it planned out, something gets sacrificed, like, right?
Yeah.
So what do you, what, any kind of words of wisdom you could share there?
Um, Truthfully, it's just writing it out and putting it on paper and seeing it in front of you. Like, okay, I'm going to the gym at this time if I want to start, because I work out in the mornings. So typically my personal training is at 7 a.m. And I put that first, like that. My whole schedule has worked around my personal training up until a couple weeks ago. I'm like, my life needs to work. Like my business needs to, or my personal training needs to work around my business rather than the opposite. So now I'm committed to it. And so I'm changing things around to where, okay, if that personal trainer doesn't have the time for me, then I have to figure it out and like, I have to find another trainer. There's no excuses. There's only solutions. So it's,
Right.
how I'm managing that is just, I've committed to my time blocking. I've committed to, this is what time I'm starting my day. This is what time I'm actually working, and I'm starting the work. As opposed to last time, it was like, oh, or like a few weeks ago, I'm going to go to the gym. I'm going to come home. I didn't have any of it written out. And so
Yeah.
it's the power, I think, is in writing it down and planning it out.
Yeah. Your intention is to get to it, but if it's not like written down as to like from this time to this time I'm doing this, then you just don't get to it often, right?
No, yeah, you're just like, whatever.
Yeah. I'll try again tomorrow.
Just, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, yeah. So talk about the importance of kind of surrounding yourself with the right people. You've got obviously your Investor Fuel member, so there's a lot of great people in there. I know you have a lot of friends in the group, and then there's you're part of a really great network of folks that are out in the Phoenix area. Just talk to people about the power, I guess, of getting around like-minded others, surrounding yourself with those people.
Yeah, it's just, I mean, everyone has those relationships where those friendships or relationships where you're the one lifting them up, and you walk away not really, like, maybe you feel fulfilled for helping that person or motivating them, but there's a difference in a relationship where it's like a two-way street where you're getting inspiration from them and they're lifting you up when you're lifting them up, and you're inspiring each other. So it's huge being around that, and being around other people with the same mindset of like self-development or leveling up. So like Investor Fuel, I love going to it because you are literally submerged in a room full of people that all have that same energy and desire to become better. So I think just you leave with it. Like there's not, what I'm talking about when you have a good conversation with someone and you feel so inspired and you're ready to like go run a marathon or go start on whatever you talked about immediately. I think that's huge to be around that, because or versus a conversation where your people are just, you're around a group of people that are just complaining the whole time. It's got a different, you leave that conversation feeling drained and like just, it has a wear on you,
Yeah.
on your mind. So
Yeah. And these things all fit together, right? It's a mindset stuff, from an accountability standpoint. When you get around other people and you kind of throw down the gauntlet of like, here's what I'm going to do, and you start saying those things out loud, then there's some level of that, of you wanting to be held accountable. There's some level of people holding you accountable, right? It's all those things of just getting around people that are talking about big things and talking about advancement. It can't help but inspire you, and it forces you to kind of up the bar, right? You're just like, okay, well, I was thinking about doing this, but now I want to push it to another level because I'm not afraid of that anymore, right?
yeah, it's a conversations too that you're having. Like I was on a call with another Investor Fuel member, and they were like, I think they started like a podcast or something like that. And I was like, yeah, that'd be cool one day. And they're like, why don't you do it? And then I was like, wait, but I don't know. And I'm like, but why don't I do it? So it's type of conversations are a lot different.
Yeah.
You like with other people that are like leveling up constantly. So
Yep.
it's just a different, So one conversation can change the entire course of your life. And so it's important who you surround yourself with, for sure.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about a little bit more about accountability. So we have some accountability calls for members of Investor Fuel, and we have these 90-day goal planning sessions that we go through, and all these things. And I think sometimes it's hard as an entrepreneur. Like sometimes we don't want to be held accountable. Like we know we need to be, but we can, nobody's going to force us to hold ourselves accountable. We have to want it. But I think that's one of the lessons that you've kind of learned is like, unless I hold myself accountable, unless I ask others to hold me accountable or surround myself with people that are going to hold me accountable, sometimes you fall short of your goals, and you're like, at the end of the day, you might be willing to sacrifice that. But when you start to ask to be held accountable, and you start to put your goals out there from an accountability standpoint, like all boats start to rise. So maybe kind of share your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I agree. I think I just know myself, and the accountability aspect is huge. And so even outside of real estate, it's putting yourself in situations to where you're going to succeed. And so like the gym, for instance, I know that if I didn't have a personal trainer and they weren't charging me for it, or they weren't like, I don't want to let that person down as well. So it's almost, so setting yourself up for success. And for instance, like time blocking, I'm becoming better at it. I'm working on it daily. And so I've strategically brought someone on to be my accountability partner, to talk about it.
Yeah.
And it's good to get it out there and get it out there and out of your mind. So someone that you can bounce ideas off with, maybe they can help you through it too.
Yeah.
I think it's just, there's power in partnering up with people for sure.
Yeah. I wrote, so, we had our Investor Fuel event last week. At the time we're recording this, it was last week. But since it was virtual, I don't know if you experienced this, but I was just able to take more notes because there's less, we were just sitting at desks, like able to just kind of write stuff. And, I'm always like attuned to what's going on with people. What do they need? I need to connect them. I need to help them. Here's where they're struggling, or here's where somebody's killing it, whatever it might be. But I'm also on the side kind of taking my own notes, like, oh yeah, I need to do that. I need to do that. And I had this realization, which is totally obvious, of like, I do not work out as much as I need to, for sure. And I don't focus on my fitness as much as I need to, and kind of up and down on some stuff. I was like, it was just a no-brainer. I have to hire a trainer. I have to have that accountability. Otherwise, I just find a way to shirk that responsibility. So if I have somebody that's like going to text me and like, where the hell are you?
Yeah, exactly.
It changes everything for me. I need that. So we all need that in our lives.
And it puts it kind of like a timestamp. So if you meet weekly, if you meet weekly, if you meet monthly, you have something to work towards. Like you have a deadline
Right.
for it. So I think when you have a certain goal, there should always be a timestamp on it. So even if it's just, the accountability, like this is what I want to get done for the next week, and then you talk about it the next time, like you have something to work towards, and you have someone holding you accountable for that specific task, or whatever it is that you want to accomplish.
Yeah. Awesome. So what can you share some of your goals for this year? Some of your big goals for 2020?
Yeah, I think what I've realized is, obviously you do have a big end goal in mind and result, but my goal is to honestly just keep it small. So month by month by month, and even week by week and day by day. So I'm breaking it down to just sticking to my schedule. I know, like I said, this whiteboard has changed my entire life. And so now time blocking is huge, and I'm like becoming obsessed with it. So my goals are really just to stay consistent with the time blocking, do what I say I'm going to do. And I have and then personally just eat healthier, maintain my health, and maybe lose a couple pounds, get some abs. I don't know. It might be nice.
Get some abs.
maybe
Nice.
this is my summer. I don't know. I'm
Yeah.
always sat every other summer out, but also rentals. So building a portfolio. I have a certain amount in monthly cash flow I'd like to make net.
Yep.
And so working towards that. So those are a few of them.
Yeah. Awesome. Good. Well, hey, you've been a member of Investor Fuel for, gosh, probably a year and a half or so, roughly?
Yeah, I think so. It's crazy.
Something like that. Yeah. So would you mind just kind of sharing a testimonial of the group and, what it's meant for you and your business?
Yeah, I think, I don't even know how to put it into words. Just the people that I've met, the relationships that I've cultivated out of Investor Fuel, the progress I've made, I just think it's invaluable. So some of the accountability partners that I have currently are from Investor Fuel. So just the conversations, the ideas, the inspiration, and then I leave as long as you implement it, as long as I implement it, because I'm not perfect. So there's definitely meetings where I've found some really great ideas and not implemented it. And then there's meetings where I've actually taken what I learned and implemented it, and it's definitely been a game changer. So I think it's super important. It kind of goes to what we talked about, surrounding yourself with the right people and leveling up. And I think it's a great environment to do that. It's been a great environment to do it. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for that. So,
Yeah, for sure.
Stephanie, if folks wanted to connect with you, you're in Phoenix, so there's a lot of investing activity out there. It's like Dallas and Phoenix are like the two big markets that are competitive, but there's lots of friendly competition, lots of great people doing great things. But if folks want to connect to you, whether they're in Phoenix or not, where can they go to connect, or where should they look you up?
Facebook. So my name will probably be on this. It's really long, so I'm not going to spell it for you. So you can find me on Facebook or Instagram. My Instagram handle is SRP Girl, and it's S is in my name, Stephanie, R, and P is in my last name, Girl. So
awesome. We'll get links for those and add them down in the show notes. So thanks for joining today.
Yeah, thanks, Mike. I appreciate it.
And again, happy birthday. Hope you have some bigger plans than being stuck on a podcast with me. So definitely appreciate you being here, though.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate it.
Awesome. Everybody, hey, thanks for joining us today. If you have not yet subscribed to the Investor Fuel Show, we'd love it if you do. If you go to investorfuel.com, you can access all of our shows. And, of course, you can find out how to get links to iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, YouTube, anywhere else where our show might be, where you might be watching or listening at. So appreciate you a bunch. See you on the next show. Are you an active real estate investor? If so, and you want to latch on to the power of surrounding yourself with over 100 of the nation's leading real estate investors, all committed to building stronger businesses and living richer, fuller lives, you should jump on a call with us to learn more about Investor Fuel. Simply visit investorfuel.com to get started.